What's up, guys? Like we said, today we're going to focus on the top 10 guards in the league. And for this, it's not going to be like point guard, shooting guard. It's just going to be players that are guard eligible, and it's going to be who has the most fantasy points right now, and if they're going to stay there, if they're going to drop off. We're going to go through all the positions. Today we're going to focus, like I said, on guard. And super, super grateful to have Alex here. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Alex Barutha of Rotowire. I'm the NBA assistant editor there, and I'm happy to be on with you guys as always.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Let's just hop right in. We have a list in front of us of the top fantasy scorers in a points league right now. Johnny, you want to start us off?
Oh yeah, all right. So up at the top at number 1, we have Luka Doncic, currently sitting with 1,231 total fantasy points. And this guy, he's the man there in Dallas. He plays big minutes, 35 minutes a game, averaging 28 points, 8.7 boards, 9.5 assists. And as far as guards go, I can't really see him falling out of the top 1. I think he's he's just so consistent. He's got a very high floor with his peripheral stats, and I think he's going to continue killing it the rest of the season.
Yeah. In my opinion, he has the perfect fantasy setup, which is a team that's not doing great, needs their one superstar to kind of step up for them, and he is their superstar. So he's kind of in this great situation for fantasy where the Mavericks, they're not a bad enough team to get killed every night. They have a pretty bad record, but they need Luka to put it on his back. So I don't see how he could fall out of the top like 2 or 3 either. Only way is with COVID. I mean, that's always really weird, especially this year. But if he can consistently stay healthy, not miss too many games, there's no way he's not getting number 1.
Yeah, Doncic was second last season in total fantasy points for a guard, and he was only behind James Harden. And they were basically in like identical situations, just in terms of these guys have insane usage rates. Everything that their teams do runs through them on offense. And it's the same story this season. Like Doncic, 10th in the NBA in minutes played, second in usage rate. Like Johnny said, he does everything for this team. That's not going to change. And it's a good chance he leads the total NBA in fantasy points this season, not just guards.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Yeah, so I think we're all in agreement. He's going to be number 1 as long as nothing changes. So let's move on. Steph Curry, do you want to go with that, Alex?
Yeah, Curry has been really good this season, obviously. Steve Kerr, the coach of the Warriors, said the other day that he thinks Steph Curry is as good as he's ever been, if not better. And it's kind of hard to disagree when he's averaging almost 30 points a game, 6 assists. He's shooting, like he's hitting 5 threes a game, essentially. And they don't have anybody else that's trustworthy on offense. So like Wiggins is fine. Oubre has been better than he was, at the start of the season, everything like that. But if the Warriors are trying to score 100 points on any given night, they need to give Steph Curry the ball like every possession.
Yeah. And Steph Curry, so I was kind of surprised. I thought they were going to kind of realize this is going to be another tank year at the beginning of the season and kind of just like sit Steph, not play him as much, but they're kind of playing him into the ground. He's killing it. I mean, right now he has 1,051 fantasy points overall, only behind Luka. And as long as he keeps playing these minutes and putting the Warriors on his back, I don't see any reason why he falls past number 2.
Yeah, dude takes a lot of shots. Can be inconsistent at times. Like some nights he'll have a floor of 30. Other nights he'll go for 70 plus fantasy points. But, as far as totals go, that's not going to kill you. So
yeah, he's got the most points in the NBA right now, just like total scoring points and the most threes. And that's not something that we can necessarily like. He might get passed up on points. I'm not sure he'll get passed up on threes at any point this season. And no, obviously his situation is not going to change.
I mean, it looks like the only person behind him is Buddy Hield or maybe Dame, one of those two, and they're like still like 30 or 40 away. Yeah, there's no way anyone's catching him.
No,
unless again COVID. But that's not really something we can talk on.
Right.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, third on the list is Damian Lillard. And Lillard, I mean, his fantasy points per game have gone up a ton since Nurkic and McCollum have gone out. That's been really big for him in terms of a fantasy player and a real life player. He just, again, this is a situation, him and Steph Curry at this point are in almost identical situations where their team needs them as like 6'3" point guards to just like carry an entire offense and score 30 points a game for their teams to have any chance of winning. And we've seen Damian Lillard do this before, right? Last season, he basically carried that team into the play-in game and helped them get into the playoffs and everything in the bubble. So, again, like Curry and Lillard are having close to identical fantasy seasons. And Curry's got more fantasy points right now because he's played like 2 more games and he's just a little bit better in a points format. But Lillard's obviously amazing too.
Yeah, and I'm even gonna go off what you said and throw Luka in the same mix. I mean, they're all superstars that have to, put their team on their back, and that's the perfect recipe for fantasy. And for Dame, he's been, I mean, the McCollum injury is kind of what bumped him up the most, because after that, I mean, Gary Trent's great, but they need Dame to hit like 30 points a game if they want to stay competitive. So, and their defense atrocious. So it's actually an even better recipe than Steph's situation. But I think Steph is just, I might get heat for saying this, I just think Steph's the better player right now. But that's how I feel. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, coming from a Blazers fan, I'm going to disagree with you there.
I know you are.
But no, I agree. These two are in a good situation as far as fantasy goes. I think Steph will have the better long-term value because, we do have like Nurk and CJ potentially coming back in March. So just kind of be aware of that. But yeah, I totally agree.
All right, let's move on. Next up, we have James Harden. No surprise there. Dude's been killing it. He got traded in the kind of the middle of the season so far. I mean, he played 8 games for Houston, and he's played 11 games for Brooklyn. His minutes actually went up quite a bit. They went up by like 4 minutes, from 36 to 39, and I don't think that that's really sustainable. Or 3 minutes. I don't think that that's sustainable. I think his minutes are going to drop a little bit. His points went down, even though the minutes went up, and that's just going to happen when you're on the floor with KD and Kyrie. His rebounds jumped up by 3, from 5 to 8. I don't think that's sustainable either. I think the rebounds are going to come down a little bit. The assists stayed the same. I mean, he's got 1 extra assist per game. He's shooting more effective on the floor. He's from 44 to 48. And his 3 went up about 3% from 35 to 38. So it seems like since he's been to the Rockets, everything's jumped up. Now, is this sustainable with 3 other superstars? I mean, my best guess was no when we made all those videos. I didn't think he was going to keep doing what he was doing on Houston. But, I mean, he's proved me wrong once. But I'm still going to kind of stick with my guns and say that these stats are going to come down. This is only, 10 – 11 games with the new team, and I think that they just signed Vanvleet, and he's going to take up some of those rebounds. I just think that these stats aren't going to stay where they are. That being said, he is 4th right now, and I could see him staying roughly around there. I mean, him and Brogdon, there's a differential of 3 fantasy points right now. So for me, it's flip a coin who misses more games rather than anything else. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, when it was announced that he was getting traded to the Nets, I thought his fantasy value would not necessarily plummet, but take a hit. And that has not been the case. But I think that's also because they tend to rest Kyrie Irving on back-to-backs. KD gets some rests from time to time. And I think if that continues, if we see that trend continue, I definitely think he could continue to produce the way he's producing. And the Nets are just such a bad defensive team that they're going to maybe give up 130 points, but they're going to also put up like 140. And That's great for fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, Harden, compared to last season, he's down like 10 points a game right now. And that's kind of where the main loss of his fantasy value will be in points, because I think he's still going to assist at a similar rate, because he is one of the best passers in the NBA. His rebounds, like maybe they come down, but they don't. The Nets also don't have a ton of great rebounders, and if they're playing at such a high pace, maybe he's able to just grab a few still. Yeah, I think he should definitely stay in the top 10. I have no reason to think that he'll drop out of the top 10.
I think he's going to finish even higher. He's probably going to end up top 5 in the guard category, as long as, like Johnny said, they keep resting their players. And they just keep giving him, 39 minutes a game so far. That's kind of wild. As long as everything stays consistent, he'll probably end up top 5. Again, him and Brogdon, flip a coin. They're both playing out of their minds. So, yeah, next up on the list, we have Malcolm Brogdon. Johnny.
All right, Malcolm Brogdon. Number 5, currently with 942 total fantasy points, 3 under James Harden. And however, he has played about 5 more games than him, so take that into consideration. The thing about Malcolm Brogdon is he's going to, I think, continue his production. So as long as Karis LeVert is out, which we still don't really know the timetable for that. But yeah, like he's playing huge minutes. That's the offense over there in Indiana. It's him and Sabonis. But yeah, 35 minutes a game, putting up 21 points per game. He's getting you the peripherals like rebounds and assists, which is great. It's what you want to see for a player who has a pretty high floor. But yeah, it all depends on the Karis LeVert situation. If he does come back, I can definitely see him kind of dropping out of the top 10 here.
Yeah, Brogdon, without Oladipo there anymore, and, LeVert's still gone, like you said, Brogdon's going to just be, him and Sabonis are like going to be the drivers of the offense. I think they're both all-star candidates right now. And Brogdon, last season he had kind of a down year efficiency-wise, coming off of the 50-40-90 season in Milwaukee. But I think now he's used to a bigger role. He's used to having the ball in his hands more. And you're seeing that come through with his effectiveness, like 22 points a game, 7 assists, and only 2 turnovers, which is 2 turnovers is a crazy number for someone taking 18 shots a game with 7 assists. So I don't see a reason for his numbers to go down unless LeVert comes back. But even if LeVert does, he'll probably just be like a 6-man role and won't overlap with Brogdon that much.
Yeah, I could see that as well. And I think it is safe to mention, for the people watching this, past 3 games, he has been in a little bit of a slump. Like Alex said, I don't think that that's going to continue. He's kind of the centerpiece of this offense with Sabonis. I think he'll get right out of it. And yeah, I think he'll stay top 10 as long as there's no injury. I know he has is it a foot or an ankle problem that sometimes limits him?
It's a foot. Yeah. I think that was part of the reason people thought that Milwaukee was okay with letting him go, was because of the persistent foot issues, which is why he slipped in the draft also. So you never know when that's going to creep up. Especially when he's playing, at more minutes than he ever has in his career.
Right. Yeah. That's a little bit worrisome for me. So maybe a good sell high. I think we actually mentioned him as a sell high before. Maybe that's still true. Maybe not. He is top 5 right now, fantasy wise. So yeah, I'm not sure.
It would be easy to sell high on him. That's for sure.
Very easy.
Yeah, I think he is a fine sell high because of that, and people just forget things like that when they're not hurt. Next on the list, we have Fred VanVleet. He's got 937 fantasy points right now. The Raptors started off the year horrible, but now they've rounded into form a little bit, more competent team. Fred VanVleet shooting a little better. Main thing is he's really turned up his 3-point shooting just in terms of volume. He's up to 9 threes a game on attempts, but career high in scoring right now, 20.2 points per game, 1.8 steals is really nice. And 6 assists as well. So, VanVleet's getting you. I mean, he's one of the highest usage guys on the Raptors, right? It's him, Lowry, and Siakam. And I just don't see any reason for these numbers to come down. They're pretty consistent with what he's done throughout his career, especially the assists and the steals and all the percentages. Like this is just who Fred VanVleet is. And it's hard for me to expect any of that to change.
I'm not gonna lie, I was not high on Fred VanVleet coming into the season. I mean, I've always thought he's a good player, but him and Kyle Lowry sharing the backcourt, I did not think he'd be a top 10 player right now. I mean, I thought guys like Trae and Zach Lavine and Bradley Beal, De'Aaron Fox, like literally I can go down this list and name probably the top 15 players that I thought would be ahead of him. I think he's playing out of his mind. I think he can keep it up. I mean, like you said, this is the kind of player that he is. I just kind of am surprised, I guess, by his output right now.
Yeah, there's a little speculation on if Kyle Lowry will be shipped off soon, maybe before the trade deadline. So that's definitely something to think about. Maybe it'll boost VanVleet even more, or they'll bring in someone with just as much usage, if not more, than Kyle Lowry, which would not be great. But
if Kyle Lowry gets traded, I think Fred VanVleet has the case to make the top 5. I think that they're going to need the ball in his hands so much more.
Yeah, if you had Malcolm Brogdon, would you consider trading him for VanVleet?
Yeah, I would. I'd consider it.
I think you have to consider it.
I would definitely consider it. If someone did that trade in our league, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense for both sides.
It seems fair.
It's weird though.
It's a weird one. Yeah. I think it would be actually hard to happen because kind of, you'd send that trade proposal and they'd be like, why? They're doing the same thing.
I mean, they are like the same player right now. I mean, actually, I think I'd rather have VanVleet. He's played one less game than him, than Brogdon, and there's a discrepancy of like 7 fantasy points between the two.
Yeah,
so Fred VanVleet is playing better technically.
Yeah, and if you're assuming Lowry gets traded at some point, and if you're assuming Brogdon's injury history might creep up, I think it's I think maybe banking on VanVleet having the better end of the season numbers that could work out.
I think I would do that. I think I'd rather have VanVleet. All right. Next up, Zach Lavine. Johnny, tell me about Zach Lavine.
Zach Lavine, Chicago Bulls point guard or shooting guard. Currently sitting 7th in total fantasy points, and he is 1 point behind Fred VanVleet with 935. Also has played in one less game. Yeah, love the upside on a guy like Zach Lavine. Nights where his shot is falling, he has upwards of 60 plus fantasy points. Playing 35 minutes a game, averaging 27 points, 5 boards, 5 assists. So he's getting you those peripherals, which is always important. And, the one thing I would say is there's also some trade speculation involving the Chicago Bulls and Lonzo Ball. So be interested to see what happens there, who they ship. Maybe they run a 3-man backcourt with maybe Lonzo Ball or Kobe White coming in as a 6-man.
Are a team that are always in trade speculation. I can't think of a team that's in trade speculation more than the Bulls. Maybe the Knicks, but like the Bulls are definitely like a top 3, always in every trade kind of team.
The Knicks are always in trade speculation because they have so many people covering the team, and there's everyone is just like has to write something. So it's like, hey, the Knicks want Giannis. Like what if they trade for Giannis? The Bulls are a big market too. It's just that they've been like kind of like they haven't been as obviously bad as the Knicks have been for like the past 20 years, right? Lavine's great, man. He's having the most efficient season of his career as well. Like both his volume and his efficiency is up, which obviously leads to like a huge spike in performance. He's shooting 51, 41, 87 right now. The biggest difference for him is he's making more shots at the rim. And I think that can stick because over the past season or like last season when Jim Boylan was their coach, they ran like all half court offense. He didn't want them running in transition. That's insane to me. You have Zach Lavine on your team one of the best athletes in the world, not just in the NBA, just in terms of like pure athleticism, and you're not running in transition. So now Billy Donovan's their coach. They run more in transition. Lavine can get easier buckets, easy dunks, stuff like that. So I think some of that is real. But yeah, the 27 points a game, I think for the most part, like maybe he drops back to 25. Either way, he's going to be one of the best. I'm with you. He's going to stay a top 10 fantasy point guard or fantasy guard, unless something really weird happens.
I actually have a funny Zach Lavine story. So my good buddy, Roberto Nelson, he was in the draft. And he was in the same draft as Zach Lavine, and he said, by the end of the, workouts and combine and stuff, everyone was just exhausted. They were just laying down sweating, and Zach Lavine was over there doing 360 dunks, like full of energy, like completely had all this stamina. When Roberto told me that, I thought that was just so funny. And that pretty much explains what he is. I mean, when everyone else is tired, he's still out there like pulling crazy dunks and stuff mid-game. So, yeah, I love Zach Lavine as a fantasy player this year. Next up, Trae Young, I believe. Yes, Trae Young. So Trae Young he's played one less game than Zach, and they're about 9 points off from each other. Trae Young has actually kind of surprised me this season. He isn't shooting as bad as I thought he would. I mean, he's still pulling up 42% from the field goal and 37% from the three. But his assists are great. I mean, he's got 9 assists. He has a better team now than he did, when he was kind of just drafted into. For the Hawks, past the first couple of years, he didn't really have anyone to pass to, and he was just kind of putting the team on the back. But now he's kind of playing more of the point guard role, and this is kind of a similar situation with Dame. He has literally he's a defensive liability, so it's going to be a high-scoring game. Trae Young is going to be scoring a lot of points. He has 27 on the season almost, and yeah, I mean, I can't imagine he falls. If anything, I think he could maybe go up. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think so. I mean, Young is pretty much the same player he was last season. There's not really a lot in his stats that you look at and you're going to see anything significantly different. The main thing for him is, like, yeah, you mentioned his kind of poor field goal percentage, but he takes 11 free throws a game, which is crazy for a point guard and crazy for a small point guard. Like, he's really crafty. And he shoots almost 90% from the line, so that's good. I think the 27 points a game is real. Obviously, we saw him do 30 points a game last year. And I don't think that the team context around him is not going to change. They drafted Trae Young to have it be Trae Young's team. That was the idea. Right. It was the same idea as the Mavericks have with Luka Doncic. They're just kind of slightly different players, maybe more than slightly. But yeah, I don't see anything changing here for Young. He's definitely one of the top fantasy players you can have.
I actually think his points are going to go up. I mean, if you look at when he came into the league, he averaged 9 points. Last season, he had 29 points per game. This season, he's at about 28, or 27, I mean. I think he could bring that up to about 29 where he was last season. I don't see any reason why there isn't. I actually like Trae Young. I think he's a riser. All right, Johnny, tell me who's next.
All right, so we have number 9, Bradley Beal. Currently has a total of 914 fantasy points in only 19 games played. And the thing with Bradley Beal, does not look happy when he's on the court. He is vocal or publicly voices frustrations. You can see it when he's out there. But besides that, he's doing well. He's averaging 33 points per game, which is, I think, the highest in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
Averaging 5 boards, 4 assists in 35 minutes a game. So I don't know if when the Wizards decide to not rest Russell Westbrook on back-to-backs, but when they do, I could see him taking a little hit there to maybe bump him out of the top 10, but that's a bold take. Like, I don't know if I can confidently say Bradley Beal will not end up in the top 10 in the guard position. What do you guys think?
Well, like you said, that he does look very frustrated, but he also came out and said how happy he is in Washington and how he wants to stay there and he doesn't want to be traded. And Washington's kind of made it vocal that they don't want to really trade him. I mean, he's been a trade speculation every single year for the past like 3 years, and they've kind of not tried to trade him. He said he doesn't want to be traded to the public. He stated that to the public. So I don't see any reason to worry there if about the frustrations. I mean, if anything, hopefully it motivates the front office to go get some better players or just to put some help around him. But yeah, I don't think he moves. I think he stays right about where he is.
Yeah, I think he probably stays where he is. He's a little bit of a sell high to me just because I can't imagine his numbers getting any higher, right? He's 33 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. I just don't think there's any room for like more. You're just kind of hoping on like, you're hoping that he just continues to play every game that he's in, or, that he just doesn't get hurt essentially. And if he does get traded, as much as he is happy there, and as much as Washington like wants to hold on to him because it gives people a reason to watch Wizards games, I think that I would be shocked if they are not taking phone calls on him and if they would not consider trading him for a good package. And I'm sure there are a lot of teams, like I don't know what team in the NBA would not be calling Washington and being like, we have this we can give you for Bradley Beal. So, and if he goes to a contender or even like a fringe, contender, his usage should go down because the other players on that team will be, good.
Yeah, that's fair. I remember, who was it? There was one of the analysts, it was like Colin Coward or someone like that. They were saying that they think that the Nets should have traded for Bradley Beal and given the exact same package. And that Bradley Beal is kind of worth more just due to his age and his play style, I guess. Could you see a team throwing a package around like the Houston got from the Nets to get a Bradley Beal?
Only if it puts them, like the Nets did that because it took them from like strong contender to like title favorite or like number 2 favorite behind the Lakers, essentially. I think the only way that would happen would be another team that's like on like the precipice of being a top 3 finals team like that. I mean, I don't even know who else. I don't know who else. Like Milwaukee, I don't think has the pieces, but it would be like a Milwaukee type team.
Like the 76ers. As
Philly.
Landing spot for him.
The Pistons.
Yeah. I thought they were trying to tank.
Just kidding.
But there aren't a ton of teams that like are in that spot. And it's Philly, it's Milwaukee, it's maybe Boston, depending on how you feel about that. Like if Utah could find a way to get him and Donovan Mitchell together, that would be awesome.
What about the Lakers? That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, like if there's a way, but I just don't know if the Lakers have like enough. I mean, they traded away all their picks to New Orleans. New Orleans has all their picks, and they have almost no young players. Like nobody wants Kyle Kuzma, right? He's not good. So like I don't know exactly who comes through there.
Okay, that's fair. Alex, tell us who's next.
Yeah, number 10 on our list is De'Aaron Fox.
Made it to the end.
Yeah, Fox is like, I wish he's made more improvement than he has the past couple of years. I feel like he's kind of stagnated a little bit. His 3-point shooting is up, which is nice because last year he was taking like 4 a game and making 29%, which is like Giannis. And this year he's up to 36%, which is good. With the Kings, he just signed like a max extension with them. He is their future. The Kings are De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is the Kings. So 23 points a game, 6.5 assists. His steals are down a little bit this year, 1.2, but we've seen him be around that 1.5 mark earlier in his career. So I think that can jump back up. If anything, I think he has room for upside because the Kings are playing better. Obviously, like I mentioned, his steals are down a little bit. So he's a great player, really underrated. Like he's an awesome point guard.
Yeah, totally agree.
Just so good in transition. They play fast. Horrible on D, so it's good for their offense, good for their fantasy production.
When Buddy Hield gets traded? I guess but when? What do you think? Do you think that helps or hurts?
It's kind of hard to tell because Fox passes so much to Hield for like easy threes because Hield, anytime he touches the ball at the 3-point line, a catch and shoot opportunity, he shoots it. So it would kind of depend on who they got back. I'm not sure. I don't think it would change his outlook drastically. There's a chance his points would go up. Maybe his assists stay stagnant or go down a little bit. I was just thinking about how funny it would be when, like, Johnny mentioned the transition, like how good he is in transition. Imagine De'Aaron Fox and Zach Lavine on the same team or something.
Oh, God.
Like, just how would you even defend that running in transition? It'd be incredible.
I would love to see Zach Lavine on the Kings. That would make the Kings actually like a little bit more watchable for me. As much as I like Holmes, and I mean, I actually really like Halliburton too, but I just feel like they're kind of, it's kind of rude to say a boring team, but a little bit. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is really the only one that I really, and Halliburton, that I'm really like, wow, that was flashy, that was cool. So I would really like to see Zach Lavine kind of put on that team.
They are missing a little something, and I don't know exactly what it is.
I think they need Boogie back. All right,
too late for that.
Yeah, maybe. So let's talk about just real quick. I mean, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, Chris Middleton, Ben Simmons, Drew Holiday, Paul George, SGA. Do you see any of them hopping in the top 10?
Ben Simmons has the potential. He's not going to shoot threes. Like, that's not the way he's getting it. But he has, we know he has triple double upside every single night. I feel like his points per game have been like weirdly low. I mean, they're deferring to Embiid a lot. He's at 14 points per game only, Ben Simmons, which is kind of shocking to see after he was about 16 the previous 3 seasons. He has some room though. He has some room, especially because his steal and block numbers are so good. I just don't see. Middleton is who he is at this point. His role is solid. Like Drew Holiday, same situation. Donovan Mitchell's shooting has been kind of bad, so maybe him at 16 could bump up, but I don't have a ton of faith in any of those guys to make any sort of leap.
Yeah, I agree. The only one that I think could make a leap a little bit is SGA. I don't know about top 10, but I mean, he's still really young, and he's in the same situation as Dame and Steph. He's just not as good as Dame and Steph, where he's kind of the offense.
Right.
If he gets his shit together, I think that he could make a bump up. And I mean, plus he's only played 20 games, which, most of the guys in the top 10 have played like 22, 23. If he gets a little bit more effective with the ball, I really like SGA. I think SGA is a little bit of a buy low right now. So I think he could go in, but other than that, I'm not sure.
SGA is having a better season than Donovan Mitchell, I think. Like, if you had to make like real life all-star teams, like, it's hard to look at SGA's numbers and Donovan Mitchell's numbers and try to convince me that Donovan Mitchell is having a better season. Like, I'm with you. It's just that you're right. SGA, he has kind of the responsibility of a Dame or a Steph. It's just that he doesn't have that like offensive package yet. He's 22. He's not an elite 3-point shooter. He does really well with what he's given. Like, he's 51% from the field, 22 points a game. He's just not like truly elite at anything right now. And once he finds what he's elite at, then he'll be able to take a real step forward.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. I think that wraps everything up. Anything else you guys want to talk about? We're good to call it there.
I think we're good to call it.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for coming on as always, Alex. And like we mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is just like kind of like a part 1 type thing where next week we'll cover the forwards and then we'll cover the centers eventually. And we're just going to keep it going. And after that, I'm sure we'll find more topics to talk with Alex about. It'd be pretty hard and foolish of us not to. So I'm sure we'll figure something out. And yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And yeah, thank you guys.
See you next time.